My name is Adana. I was 25 years old when I got married to a man I believed was the love of my life. But what I didn't know was that I had just married a ghost. Yes, you heard that right. A real ghost. And by the time I discovered the truth, it was already too late.
Hi, my name is Baby T, and I tell the craziest, wildest stories you've ever heard. So you better like this video and subscribe right now, before I go and tell my mama about you. What are you waiting for? Let's get back to the story.
I lived in a small town in southeastern Nigeria, in Enugu State. The kind of town where everyone knows everyone, where news travels faster than the wind. After graduating from university, I returned home to care for my sick grandmother, Mama Ejima. She had raised me after my parents died in a car accident when I was only 8. We lived in a red-soiled compound on the edge of the village, surrounded by old mango trees and the distant sound of crickets. I helped her bathe, fed her herbs, cleaned her room, and sold vegetables at the market to earn a little money. I thought my life was over, trapped in a cycle of grief, poverty, and silence. My friends had all moved on. Some got married. Some left for the city. I had nothing, just memories, and a sick old woman who barely spoke anymore. Until he came along. His name was Obinna. I met him one rainy evening at the local market. My basket of vegetables had slipped in the mud, and while everyone else passed me by, he was the only one who stopped to help.
His voice was calm.
His hands were cold. He smiled like someone who had lived 1,000 lives. He was tall, soft-spoken, dressed in clean, old-fashioned clothes, like someone out of a 1970s Nollywood film. The fabric of his shirt was hand-woven, the kind you only see in old photos. He said he had just moved into the next village, that he was working in real estate, but no one had seen him around before. I asked him about his office. He laughed it off, saying, "My business is mostly word of mouth." Still, he was respectful, generous, and strangely comforting, like he understood pain in a way most people didn't. He looked into my eyes when I spoke, never rushed me, never interrupted. We started talking more often. He began walking me home, waiting for me at the market, bringing me palm oil, cassava flour, and even rare books, things I never told him I liked. Yet somehow he knew. Even Grandma liked him. And she didn't like anyone. She'd sit up straighter when he entered, nod and say, "That man carries old spirits." I thought she meant he had an old soul. She knew more than I did. 3 months after we met, Obinna proposed. He didn't get down on one knee. He didn't bring a ring. He simply said it while we were peeling yams under the mango tree one evening. "I want to marry you, Adana. I feel complete with you." At first, I laughed. "You barely know me." He smiled. "But my spirit knows yours." It sounded poetic. Maybe even romantic. But now that I think about it, it was a warning. He didn't have family, he said. Or friends. He had no wedding photos from his parents, no cousins to call. He wanted a small, traditional wedding. Just elders, no noise. "I don't like cameras," he added. Another red flag I ignored. He offered to pay the bride price in full, even though we didn't ask. My grandmother nodded in approval. "Maybe your luck has finally turned," she said. And I believed her. I was desperate for love, for stability, someone to call mine. So we got married. That was the night everything began to change. Our first night together was cold. Not the weather. Him. He didn't sleep beside me. Instead, he sat in a wooden chair by the window, eyes fixed on the moonlight like he was searching for something or someone. When I asked him why, he said, "I don't sleep well." Every night was the same. He'd disappear around midnight and return just before dawn, smelling of dew and old leaves. He claimed he went for walks. I told myself maybe he was just restless. But then I started hearing things. Whispers in the compound when no one was there. My name being called from the bush at night. I saw shadows that didn't belong to anyone. His footsteps echoed, even when he wasn't walking. Once, I caught him humming a funeral dirge in his sleep. My grandmother said she smelled death in the house. "There's something ancient here," she murmured one night. He brought it with him. Then one morning she was gone. No struggle. No sickness. Just gone. Her eyes were closed, hands folded neatly, and her room smelled of incense and cold dust. I found a red feather under her pillow. I never kept birds. After Grandma's burial, I couldn't sleep. I started having vivid nightmares. Obina standing in a forest, blood dripping from his eyes, calling out to me, "You promised, Adana. You are mine now." In some dreams, he held my hands, guiding me into a river. In others, I was dressed in black, surrounded by crying spirits. I told Mama Igioma, an old neighbor. She said I needed to visit the Dibia, the traditional healer in the next village. The Dibia's hut was dark, filled with smoke, mirrors, and the smell of burnt herbs. When he saw me, he jumped back and shouted, "Woman, who did you marry? That man is not of this world." I thought he was mad, until he told me everything. Obina had died 17 years ago, murdered by his own brother over ancestral land. They buried him without proper rites, and his spirit had been wandering ever since, searching for a woman pure of heart to anchor him back to the living world. He chose me, because I had no parents, because I was grieving, because I was vulnerable, because I was open. That night, I confronted him. "Who are you, Obina? What are you?" He looked up from the chair and didn't even flinch. "I never wanted to hurt you," he said. "But when I met you, something in me remembered love." "I am not yours," I screamed. He stood up slowly, walked toward me, and as he passed the mirror, his reflection didn't follow. Then the lights flickered. The air turned cold. My breath formed mist. My shadow on the wall wasn't mine. It was his. He moved. I didn't. I screamed and ran. But his voice followed me like a whisper on the wind. "You said yes, Adana. You're mine. In this life. And the next."
Pause.
Before we continue, if you have watched up until now, it is because you enjoy the story. Please be kind enough to click the like button for this video and subscribe to the channel for more interesting stories like this. Now back to the story. The Dibia told me there was only one way to break the marriage, a midnight cleansing at the river, with my blood, his ashes, and the presence of a living male relative. But Obina had no family, or so we thought. With the help of the village elders, we found his surviving younger cousin, an old drunk named Ikin, who lived in a collapsing mud hut. He had been afraid of the shrine since childhood, and it took hours to convince him. That night, I braided my hair, wore white, and carried Obina's wedding clothes and the last gift he ever gave me, a red coral necklace I had never worn again. At midnight, we went to the river. The moon was full. Frogs croaked. Owls watched from the trees. I cut my palm. My blood dropped onto the fabric. Ikin poured libations and wept. The Dibia chanted ancient words I didn't understand. Suddenly, the river roared. Mist rose from the water. Obina appeared, half man, half shadow, his face twisted in sadness. "Adana," he cried. "You promised." I turned my back and whispered, "I never knew what I promised." The wind howled. The necklace shattered. A tree cracked in half. And Obina was gone. I fainted. When I woke up, the birds were chirping. Sunlight touched my skin. I was alive.
But changed.
The compound felt lighter. No more whispers. No more shadows. Even the goats started returning near the house. I cleaned out Obina's things and buried the red feather beneath the mango tree. I still wore the scar on my palm, a reminder of what I had survived. It's been a year. I started a tailoring business under the mango tree where Obina proposed. Women come from nearby villages to sew uniforms, wrappers, and blouses. I smile again. I even sing. I go to church. I pray. I give thanks. But sometimes, when I'm alone, a cold breeze touches my neck. The air stills, and I hear his voice in the rustle of the trees. "You're still mine, Adana, even in death."
Hi. My name is Baby T, and I tell the craziest, wildest stories you've ever heard. So you better like this video and subscribe right now, before I go and tell my mama about you. What are you waiting for? Let's get back to the story.